So, the Golden State Warriors are in a very unique situation where they are a team that has a chance of winning a playoff series or two and contending for the championship next year when Clay returns. But they also have a chance to get a very high draft pick and draft a very, very good player through the Minnesota pick that they acquired through the Andrew Wiggins trade. So, in this video, I'm going to be looking at what the Warriors should do with the pick, whether they should keep it, trade it, do something else. I think those are the only two options, but just to give some background on the pick. So the Wolves are 7-22. They have dealt a lot with injuries. Towns and D'Lo have only played like 5 games together since the Wiggins trade, but nevertheless, they're one of the worst teams in the league, and their pick is likely going to be in the high lottery. So the pick is top 3 protected, but even if the Wolves have the worst record in the league, which I think they do right now, there's still a 60% chance it's not in the top 3. So there's a 60% chance, even if the Wolves have a very, very high pick and a high odds of getting the first pick, there's still a 60% chance the Warriors would get it this year. And even if they don't and it does land in the top 3, well, it's still okay because it's unprotected in 2022, and I don't see the Wolves being a great team in 2022. I think it'll still be a very valuable pick that teams are going to want. So, and another thing that makes this even more interesting is that there's plenty of good prospects in the 2021 draft, and it's a really deep class. So even if they get a 5th or the 6th pick, they could still be drafting a player who has potential to be the number 1 overall pick and has great potential to really help them out and be a future star. So they're in a very interesting situation, and that's going to be a very valuable asset to pick. So the Warriors themselves are 16-13 this year, and that's almost all Steph just playing incredibly, averaging like 30 points a game, really carrying the team. And Clay will be coming back next year, which could make them a serious contender, at least a fringe contender. And if there were to be a trade for this, with this pick, it would be after the All-Star break. In that 2 weeks after the All-Star break and before the trade deadline, that's going to be where most of the trades are going down, and we'll see what happens then. But this pick is certainly up for trade, and it certainly seems like they'd be willing to trade it if they could get good value for it. So the case for keeping it is, they have a chance to draft a future star. Very few teams have that chance. They actually sort of had that chance last year, but they took Wiseman, so Wiseman could still be a star in the future. But very few teams are in this position where they're a good team with a high pick. So keeping the pick and drafting a player could bridge the gap between their dominance from the last 5 years and make them a good team for the next 10 years with the pick and Wiseman and whatever remains of Curry and Thompson. Like, they're still going to be valuable role players, guys like Wiggins, and then just whoever they draft in future drafts and pick up in free agency and that sort of thing. So it could put them in a good position for the next 10 years. And this pick, if there are players in college that are ready to make an impact for this team, it could help them out as soon as next year. We've seen plenty of rookies be valuable players for teams. I can't think, plenty of players have made impacts on their team early in their career. So, this player they draft is not just going to be for the future. Hypothetically, he could help them out now. But then there's the case for trading the pick. And it's really just to help them win now. It could help them this year. I don't think any trade is going to make them, a championship contender, but it could make them a team that no one wants to face in the playoffs. And then it definitely helps them next year when they're really going to have a chance to win it with, Curry, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Wiseman, and then, the pick or whoever they trade for with the pick. And, presumably whoever they trade for is going to be better than a rookie. And there's also the chance that they don't even get the pick and it finishes in the top 3. So then that player isn't helping them out, but it's still a good asset. And then the other thing is, if you were to trade for, a player, they would likely be more on Curry and Clay's timeline, and it just help them out more in competing for a championship. If we look at who they could trade for, the unhappy superstar right now is Bradley Beal, and they certainly have enough to get him between the pick and Wiseman and contract like Oubre or Wiggins or Draymond. They could certainly get Bradley Beal, and he'd be a pretty good fit if you would have Curry, Clay, Beal, and then two of Wiggins, Draymond, Oubre, and Wiseman as the front court. And you can always find centers to play like 15 minutes a game for you. That's not a big problem. So if they were to do that, that could definitely help them out both this year, even without Clay, and then next year for sure when Clay would be back. And then there's other guys like Vucevic who could, help them out center-wise. And then you could trade it. There's like plenty of role players that I'm sure are out there, or, a new superstar becomes unhappy. There's always people to trade for in the NBA. So that could sort of be what they would do in a trade for the pick. And, that would just give them a better chance to win both this year and next year, presumably. So we'll have to see what happens with that one. What would I do if I was the Warriors? So what I would do is I would trade the pick, because I don't think the Warriors are going to get a player as good as Curry. And, they just have a good supporting cast here between Curry and Clay and Draymond and then Wiggins. And then they also have other assets to make the trade even more valuable than the pick, with Wiseman particularly. They could throw him into a trade. So that could get them, really a star. So if they could trade the pick and get a star, I would definitely do it. Someone like a Beal who could really, really help them out and make them championship contenders. But I wouldn't trade it for like a role player like Robert Covington. Not Covington exactly, but a Robert Covington type player, because I think the Warriors, they could find a player of that impact in the draft, and they could also trade for them without using the pick, because they have future picks, future seconds, a few valuable players. I don't know if they want to trade Wiseman, but probably not. And then they could also sign players like that in free agency. I think they'll have like a mid-level or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure they're over the cap though, but teams can always find a bit of money here and there. And the Warriors ownership are not afraid of paying the luxury tax. I think it cost them like over $100 million to get Oubre. But anyways, I think, I wouldn't trade the pick for a non-superstar player or a non-all-star player. So I would just hold on to it in that scenario. Either they get it next year, or they get it the year after that, and they have a player to build with him, the player, the pick that becomes the player, Wiseman, and then just whatever they can get around that. And you never know. We just don't know how good this player that they pick with the pick could be. It could be a future superstar, it could be a bust, could be a role player. You just never know. That's what's called the draft lottery. It's actually just called the draft, so don't know why I said that one. But trade it if they can get a star. If they can get a star. If they can't get a star, just keep it and then maybe make some moves around the team in free agency or trading on other things. But that's the end of this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Comment down below what you'd do with the pick, and I'll see you guys next time.